And good afternoon, Australia, and good evening, America. You're back with Radio Toni, Everyday Business, and I'm your host, Toni Lontis. Today, I have an amazing co-host who I'll introduce you to in just a moment. This is our first show back for Christine on Everyday Business, and we will be talking about lots of interesting things today. But before I do, just a reminder that if you need to catch up on the show, please jump on to radiotoni.com, where you'll find all the information about anything that we speak on the show. And if you don't copy down the links to connect with Christine, you'll also find links on radiotoni.com under co-hosts, where you'll find all of Christine's information readily accessible. So I hope that you've all had an interesting few days since the last time we spoke. I know that America certainly has had an interesting time, and Christine and I might be able to touch on some of that stuff later in the show. But I want to tell you now about the glorious person that is Christine Stow. She's a speaker, author, and community consultant. When she found out something was wrong with her baby daughter at 3 months of age, she had to reinvent herself. Since then, she's been elected to council, written her story, completed an MBA, and established support programs and a special school. From lab tech to sales to carer to counsellor, she now speaks to women to find their passion, uncover their purpose, and turn it into business gold, supporting women to be empowered to make a contribution while working around their responsibilities, to realise their true value. Christine likes to say life is all about choices. You choose how you live each and every day. And in the pre-show conversation, Christine and I had a lovely little convo about the fact that we are both introverts, and that makes it a little bit more difficult to show up and do a live broadcast. So I just want to acknowledge Christine today, because I too find it difficult. Even though I do these shows all the time, I have a script in my head that says, will the tech be okay today? Do I have the Zoom link right? Did I send Christine the details correctly? Will we be able to go live? Now, all of that crosses my brain, and I've been doing this for a substantial amount of time. So anyone who is like me and is game enough to appear on this show, I'd like to applaud them. Now, before we get on to a business discussion, I just want to remind you that Christine's book is about all things Imogen, and not just being Imogen's mother. It talks about how Imogen's particular disabilities helped her to embrace each and every day. And she makes a decision each and every day to wake up happy and value her life and what she's been given. So good afternoon, Christine, and welcome back to the show.
I'm so happy to be here, and good afternoon to all the listeners and everybody online. It's a new year and it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yippee! I'm really glad. I'm like you. I'm like, yay, a new year. Let's forget about 2020.
Yeah, moving on.
Look, 2020 had some of the most amazing learnings for me personally in that year that I can remember for a long time. And for other people, it was an incredibly difficult year. And for other people, they had an okay year. So I think that Christine is so right in the choice you make about how you approach life. Christine, in the first show, we talked a little bit about you and Imogen and how Imogen's disabilities impacted on your life. Do you want to just remind us quickly a little bit about that journey? Because I think it's really important to our discussion today to have an understanding of where you've come from to get to where you are now.
Tony, wasn't that so last year? Wasn't that? Seems
I
like
know.
a long time ago. And when
Doesn't
I think
it?
about, when I think about 2020, I think about lockdown. There was a time when I was trying to do exercises and we had a curfew, and I was pushing Imogen's wheelchair around the kitchen table and putting it on Facebook. So, and people when I made a post on Facebook asking people what they thought of me, they said, "You make great videos with Imogen." It was lovely. But yeah, so
And Imogen would have liked it.
oh, she was loving it. She's like,
Yeah.
smiling and loving it. And so, I did it more, of course. So
Yes.
Imogen was normal, if you like, until 3 months of age. We found out there was something wrong with her. Turned out it was a genetic condition. So it
Yeah.
means that her muscles are stiff. So before that, I was in medical
Yes.
sales, flying all around the world, advising doctors and anaesthetists on our products. So I had to
Yeah.
change the way I viewed the world. I had to change, lost my identity, if you like, and had to find
Yes.
a new way to be. And then when Imogen was about 5 years old, some people asked me to stand in the state election on disability issues. So that shot me
Yes.
off into a different direction. And I thought, politics, like, really? And then I realized, then I thought, well, I've been trained to speak in public and I've got a
Yes.
rational background. This must be
Yes.
meant to be my journey. So then got involved in politics and then said, no, 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 that's too hard, never doing that again. And then some people, yeah, then some people asked me to stand in the local government election, which I did
Yes.
and ended up getting elected. So that gave me a whole different perspective. So in terms
Yes.
of Imogen's disability, she's got a muscle condition that means her muscles are stiff. That means that
Yeah.
she's now 20. She doesn't walk or talk. She's nil by mouth. So that means she requires 24/7 care. So she's home with me here today. And I'm on a mission to use what I've learned, but to work around
Yes.
her care and to find a way to work around her care and to assure other people that it is possible to do.
Christine, I know that we've talked about this before, but you are passionate about disability services, and I'm really grateful that you were one of the forerunners in our national disability scheme. And I just wondered if you could just quickly talk about what that is. I'm not sure if America has a similar scheme, but it's important that we keep talking about what this scheme means for people with disabilities and the wonderful people that care for them.
So, National Disability Insurance Scheme, or as we refer to it lovingly as NDIS, prior
Yeah.
to prior to the work that we did and the rolling in of NDIS, organisations would get buckets of money to look after people with disabilities, and some people would
Yeah.
fall out of the bucket. There wasn't enough money to look after everyone, if you like, so they'd fall out of the
Yeah.
bucket. And there's also organisations were focused in a different way, very welfare paternalistic, if you like, looking after people.
Yes.
Then, with the advent of National Disability Insurance Scheme, the person with the disability, so I point at me, but the person with a
Yeah.
disability got
Yeah.
their bucket of money to live life to the best of their ability as normal as they could. So that turned the whole
Yeah.
disability services on its head. So that now means that a person with a disability gets to choose how they live. They get to choose how they spend the money, and services are now responsive to that person. So it means that people are empowered.
Which is amazing to think that we created this system so that Imogen gets a choice in how she's looked after and how she spends her life, because even with her disabilities, she has a wonderful life, doesn't she, Christine? And
Yeah,
she's a joy and she brings joy to you.
she does. She does. Like, people might think, oh, how is that? And I often say, well, growing up, I've two daughters. I've got an older daughter, Aurelia, and
Yes.
in the morning I'd go to get them up, and Aurelia would like pull the covers up and go, "Oh, I don't want to get up, mummy." Whereas Imogen, when I go into her, she's like smiling and, "Hi, mummy." She doesn't speak, but she's like happy to see
Yes.
you. So she is a
Yes.
joy.
Yes. So part of your experience, life experience, was learning how to write grants, because in your political career, you had to determine how to get pots of money to do the things that you wanted and the community wanted, which led to your expertise around writing grants and led to a program that was initially called Grants Made Easy. Is that my correct understanding, Christine?
It was originally called Money Magic 101 because I couldn't think of anything else at the time. And
Yes,
then
yes,
it's always been about grants. So while early on in the piece, I became part of a group setting up a support group for carers, and the
yes,
council at the time actually approached me and said, "Will you apply for this grant? We want you to set up a support group." So they approached me, and
yeah,
so filled in the form, applied for the grant, and got the money. And we set up a support group that's been running and still runs today for 18
yeah,
years. So Imogen was 2 years old. And from there, then I was asked to stand in the state election, and time moved on, and then my ex left, and I thought, what is it that I can help other people do? What
yeah.
and that's when I'd realized that I'd been 100% successful in applying for grants. In the meantime, I'd also set up a not-for-profit
How cool is that?
fundraising organisation. So I understand the steps that you need to take. And this was all
Mm-hmm.
before I was elected to council. So then I was elected to council and got to see it from the other side, the decision-making
Yes,
process from the other side. And then I thought, well, how can I help people? Okay, I've been successful. How can I show others? Because people were asking me, how do you go about that? How do you set up this support group
yes,
for domestic violence victims, for example? So I
yes,
thought about it and I thought, what were the steps that I took? So then I mapped them out, and then I've now put them in a little program, and any minute the technology is going to drop, and that's automated. So people can now go online and actually go through the steps that I did. So I've recorded
yes. Yeah.
8 videos of the steps that you need to take. But the main three that I
Yes,
talk about are having a mission. So you need to have a
yes.
mission. You need to be able to articulate what it is. So imagine one
And
day
it
that,
needs to be big, doesn't it?
well, it doesn't need to be big. Actually, I say don't start big, because it's better if you start
Yeah.
small and you get runs on the board. Because once you get
Yes.
runs on the board, then you can take the next step and the next step. So, but
Mhm.
imagine one day if you've got a dream to set up, and what I've heard a few times over the last little while is women want to set up like a clinic where they've got different professionals to help those with, maybe mental illness or domestic violence or
Yes.
disabilities. So they're looking to set up
Yes.
a clinic. So you need to be able to put that into words, because, having worked with MPs and being elected to local government, you need to be able to tell them what you want. And I hear people say, oh, the
Mhm.
government should know, the government should know. But they're just people.
No.
But imagine one
Yeah.
day you step into a lift, and and you happen to be with, I don't know, the Prime Minister of Australia. And that might happen.
Yeah.
It might be the finance
Yes.
minister. And he says,
Yes.
Kristen, what would you like to see? And I say, well, I'd like a
Mhm.
respite house for people with disabilities, and I want it to look like this. This man or this woman has the power
Yes.
to make that happen. So you need to be able to
Yes.
say that. You need to be clear about it. So you need to know what your
Mhm.
mission is, and it's a really good idea to write it down. The next thing is,
Yes.
number two, is to write your budget. Now, people often say, how do I
Yes.
start? How do I write a budget? Well, I can help you with
Mhm.
that. You need to have
Yes.
figures. You need to be able to say
Yes.
how much you want. Because imagine if you go to the shop and you say, I want that milk, and they don't go, oh, yeah, just, we don't know how much it is, just take it. You need to know
Yeah.
how much you want. It might be $1,000,000, it might be $10,000, but you need to know how
Yes.
much and how you're going to use that, because you need to be able to
Yeah.
tell that politician, that wonderful politician with a magic wand, who's going to make it happen.
Yes.
And the
Who
third,
might have a secret bucket of money that he desperately wants to spend on something worthwhile. You never know.
Well, most often they do have a secret bucket of money in Australia, actually.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's a good idea to have your mission, then your budget, and put it into a proposal. And in a proposal, you need to
Mm-hmm.
answer all sorts of questions like how are you going to use the money? What are the outcomes? Who are you going to help? So it's a really good
Yes,
idea to have that ready to go.
yes. And this is all stuff that you've learnt from being on both sides
Yeah.
of the grant writing process, which is a great gives you great insights, doesn't it?
Yeah, so actually, from applying to grants, but also setting up a not for profit organization. So we set up a not for profit that was called Kids Up. So there's some steps,
Yes,
and people say, oh, if I can save you $10,000 right here and now, people say, I want to
yeah,
set up tax deductibility. Well, that costs $10,000
yes.
in Australia. You know,
To set up a not-for-profit?
to set up the tax deductibility. So what I say is start
Yes.
small. Start off with it in Victoria. It's called an
Mhm.
incorporated association, and you go to the Consumer Affairs website. In Queensland, it's called, you go
Yes.
to the Business Queensland website, and in New South Wales, it's the Office of Fair Trading. So if you can find the
Yeah.
equivalent in your state of how to, and you set up an incorporated association. So if you're in a business, when you're applying for business grants, you need to have set up a
Uh-huh.
business. If you're a not for profit and you want to set up that giving, tax deductibility, then you need to have a body that's called an incorporated association. If you get going, and you need
Uh-huh.
a little committee, but if you get going and you get money in, then look at the tax deductibility.
I
Because
see. So
people will give to your cause. They don't give because you've got
mhm.
tax deductibility. They give because it's a
Yes.
cause. They give because they relate to
Yes.
that. So if you can give people a reason and a way to give, they'll give.
Yeah. Yeah. And so all of these steps are part of your new program, which you're releasing, like, very soon, isn't it?
Any minute after this, I'm going to be having a look at the automation once again. But until the
Yes.
31st of January, it's going to be $7 for the masterclass and the report, and it's
Yes.
going to be
Yes.
$97. So usually it's going to be $47 for the masterclass, but until the
Yeah.
31st of
But
January, it'll be
it's
$7.
$7.
Yeah, and
What a
97
bargain.
for the whole course. Well, when you consider that people that I've talked to get usually $10,000, usually $10,000
Yeah.
for their grants to get them started. So it's about the vision and about other people engaging in that. When I was when I
Definitely.
was when I was running Kids Up, because I had a a organization and a vision that helped kids with disabilities, people would ring me and say,
Mm.
"Where do I donate? Where do I give money?"
Oh,
Yeah,
fantastic. And Australians are very generous, aren't they?
yep, they are. They absolutely
I
are.
know whenever there's a national disaster, it seems that we have an innate ability to give to others in need. And so uh, that knowledge should be helpful if you're thinking about doing any of these things. And it refers to not-for-profits, community organisations, projects rather, and they can be virtually anything, can't they, Christine?
Yeah, so well, they can be anything. There's all sorts of projects. If you look at the giving platforms, GoFundMe, for example, people put
Yes.
things up there to pay for operations for their cats. So there is virtually
Yeah.
anything. So from, helping to help somebody with a pet to, the bushfire disaster. I mean, look at how much we gave there.
Yes.
So
Yes.
give people a
Yes.
reason and a way to give. Make it easy for them.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the lessons from all the money that was raised last year around the fire is that timely lesson about all that money actually went to the firefighters and their organisation versus the people who lost their houses and properties and animals, etc. And that is a big example of setting things up properly, isn't it, Christine?
That's true. Yes, you need to think through it carefully. So that's why I say start off small. Start off with your
Yes.
incorporated association. Try it out if you like. Give it a test run.
Yeah.
See if people will
Yeah.
give. See if you need to tweak the message. And also, as you
Yeah.
say, you need to be careful in where the money goes and make sure it is getting to the right
Yes.
place.
Yeah, absolutely. Christine, so that program of yours is like happening right now, and I'm
Yeah.
sure next week we'll be able to say, okay, it's up, it's ready to go. But in the meantime, something else that we wanted to chat about in your transformation from world traveling sales rep to Imogen's mum to being in council. One of the things that helped you transition, and this is a good subject for today as we come into 2021 and things are still a little up and down in terms of business and jobs. So I wanted to talk today as well about transferable skills and what they mean and how you use them.
Yeah. So when I thought about people come to me for how to write grants and they say, oh,
Yeah,
that's really hard. And when I thought, well, why is it that I just find it easy to do? What is it
yes.
about
Mm-hmm.
my past life, my previous life, that allows
Yep.
me to do this? And I thought, well, I was in sales. What did I do in
Mm-hmm.
sales? I wrote lots of proposals. And I went,
Yeah,
oh, proposals? Grants. They're the same skills. And I
they are.
wasn't until after I'd written the program for Grants Made Easy and I
Yes,
thought back and I thought, oh, I do have transferable skills. Here I was thinking,
yes.
oh, I was in medical sales. What did I learn? What can I help people with? So I really
Yeah,
urge people, it might be that your job is no longer viable. It might be that you need to look for something different. But the transferable
yeah.
skills that we have are amazing. If we think about
And valuable.
valuable, that's right. Write down all the things that you're good at or all the things that you like to do. And that's something that if your listeners are interested in the consultation with me, I'd love to help them tease out
Absolutely.
those transferable skills because I've been so successful and it wouldn't have been I wouldn't have been successful if it wasn't for those skills. So it might be that, you take transferable skills into a new role that might pay you more, for example. It might be that you use
Yes.
transferable skills in doing something different, just like I did. I never thought that I'd write grants. So I really
Yeah.
urge your listeners to think about what they've done and where they might use some of those transferable skills. And I'd love to talk to them.
I know. I was just going to say, if there's one person I know that can help you nut out what your transferable skills might be, it's
Mm,
Christine, because she's done so much of this work. And Christine's website is christinestow.com.au, and on there is a connect or contact me. Jump on there. There's also a button to book a call with Christine. So if you need any help around working out what skills you have that might be relatable to another job, that might be transferable to another job, or that might even get you on the track of a not-for-profit or a community organisation, a community project, or even a business. So
business.
some of the things that you think, so me, for example, my background is in nursing. So nursing to broadcaster is a quantum jump, but it's not really, because I spent my life teaching and educating patients around healthcare and in particular their upcoming operations. And within that ability to talk to people is you had to be organized. You had to make sure that they had this portion of their patient pathway sorted out, that they arrive for their appointments, that they come to see the anaesthetist before their surgery. So those skills, whilst not the same in doing what I do now, they are called transferable skills.
Mm.
And the way that you use them is really important. And again, it's important that we have this conversation now when the world is in a bit of flux and people have lost jobs or looking for jobs, looking to start a business or looking to do something else, to recognize these valuable skills that you've learnt in a current or past roles. Christine, besides the grant writing, what were some of the other things that you were able to take into your role within local council?
So one of the things that Senator Mitch Fifield talked about with
Mm-hmm.
carers, and one of the things that I've talked about in my speeches is juggling. So, having
Yes.
a child with special needs.
Yes.
You don't even have to have a child with special needs. If you've got children, you have to juggle.
You
You know,
juggle.
you juggle. And Senator Fifield actually said when NDIS was rolling in, he said there'd be so many roles because carers are able to juggle, manage timetables, maybe they
Yes.
go to work or not go to work, but they're still managing appointments, going here, being there, and managing other children at the same
Absolutely.
time, as well as negotiating with health professionals, para-health professionals, learning a whole new language, which is a medical language,
Yes.
maybe,
Yeah.
and to learn things. My older daughter, could
Yes.
spell anaesthetist before she was 2, because these were more, because these are things that you learn in negotiating the pathways. So, and with NDIS, grants, or this whole new world, there's new opportunities.
Yes.
And the thing, if there's
Yes.
anything that 2020 and COVID and lockdown has done for us, it's meant that people are more open to doing things online, which is fabulous for me.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Online is going to be an online education is tipped to generate billions in revenue.
Yeah.
So that's billions of dollars of people wanting to educate themselves. So where do they look when they're looking for education? They look online. So that's another important component is you need to be visible online. And it's part of the reason I'm passionate about doing these shows is because it allows people to see what else is available to them, who they can talk to get help in doing the things that they might want to do, and keep them visible. And the purpose of me having Christine is so that I can talk about all the things that might help people. Because at the end of the day, for both Christine and I, that's one of our highest ideals is our love of helping people, closely followed by empowering, closely followed by educating, because
Yeah.
education gives us an understanding and a power to make a difference in our lives and the lives of others. And Christine, I know that you're really passionate about working with women. And so I really like you to tell the audience, remind them again what your special mission is in the next 5 years.
So I want to help women. I'm passionate about helping other carers to realize that they can work
Yes.
around their caring responsibilities, that it is possible. And COVID allowed us to be more, to people be more accepting of online. And it also meant that there's less stress for me. I don't have to think about
Yes.
getting care for Imogen to get to a place in person. I can be here, and I was going to wine tastings right from this chair. And the next minute I was
Yeah.
in London talking to someone. Someone's flying all around the world
Yes.
from this chair. But it meant that I was less stressed about getting care. So I'm passionate about helping carers. I'm passionate about helping women who have passion causes, who have, they've got that burning desire to get it off the ground,
To
and
do something.
yeah, they don't know where to start. And where they start is, with grants. If you start with a grant, and that grows into something. The other thing as
Yes.
well that I was thinking while you were talking is that now that we're online, we used to go and
Yeah.
do Bunnings barbecues. So I don't know what that
Yes.
equates to in the States, but maybe they do those
Yeah.
cookie stalls or cake stalls. And we'd go
Yes.
out to budding barbecues. But now we're more online. There's I know there's at least 30 platforms. So there's not just GoFundMe, but there's a
There
lot of
is.
platforms out there. And that's one of the modules in Grants Made Easy is looking at online
Yep.
platforms. So that means you're not limited to your local community. You can put your
Absolutely.
fundraising idea or your project online. Kickstarter is one of the
It
platforms that
is.
you can use to get a project started, and you can do that all over the world. So where there was $80 billion in Australia, there's
Yep.
who knows how much in the whole world.
Trillions. Yeah.
Trillions. So
Yeah.
people give them a reason to give and a way to give, online platform.
And off you go.
Yeah, so put your message out there, and so we've opened this up to ourselves.
I
So
was just going to say, 2020 has really opened so many people up to that concept of connectability across the world. The fact that, like, I'm with you, Christine, the fact that I can do a Zoom meeting and do multiple Zoom meetings versus one-on-one have to drive somewhere to meet, whilst I still do that from time to time in my business life, I mostly do Zooms now, and I talk to people from all over the world, just like you do, all over the world. We are now connected in a way that is, I think, amazing, because the
yeah,
more people that you connect to and talk about your vision and mission and what you want to do, the more chances, the more opportunities for you to achieve what you want to achieve. I think that that has been the most wonderful thing about 2020 is most of us rediscovering that connectability across the world. So for someone in Australia to do something that they're passionate about and connect with someone in America that helps them do that, what an amazing thing. What a wonderful world.
I love that we've come to this point in this conversation where we're saying, well, 2020 was tough and 2020 was
Yeah.
hard for some people, but there's been a lot of learnings that we can take from it that are
Yes.
opening up the world. So, and I like to look at things, one of my sayings is, she loved life and it loved her right back. So it's the way
Yes.
you can look at things, and I'm always looking at the opportunities.
Yes. Yes. And the other thing is, it actually reinforces for people that there is money out there. There's plenty of money. There's huge amounts of abundance. So if you've got a desire to help uh, school
Yeah,
children in a third world country, go for it. There
yeah,
should be nothing stopping you. But if you want to know where to start, of course, then I can't recommend Christine highly enough to get you started. Just have a conversation with Christine and go, okay, this is my idea, because she's not one of those people who's going to say, oh my God, that's crazy. She's never going to say that to you. She's
no,
going to listen to your vision and your great purpose and then help you get on the way to achieving that purpose, because that's what she loves to do. So,
yeah.
Christine, you don't just help women, though. You're available, you're predominantly focused on helping women, but you do help men as well.
I'm happy to help men, women, LGBTQI
Yes,
across the board. I'll help anyone. It's just mostly women that have come to me. Look, I've
come
even
to
had
you. Yes,
trans people come to me, and love to
yes.
help them as well, because I think that they have some of the same things that in disability, some of the prejudices
Yes,
that we face, the same
yes,
different color, if you like. So no, I'm happy to
yes.
help anyone. It's just that it's been mostly, not all, but mostly women who have
Yeah,
such a desire and passion and don't know
yeah,
where to start.
yeah. And it's about recognizing that burning desire or passion in your life and going,
Mm,
if not now, when? And if you're stuck and thinking how, then here's the solution. Christine, have a conversation with Christine, because she can walk you through that, nut it all out, work out where to start, and off you go. So there should be nothing stopping people in 2021 discovering their passion and purpose and getting started on it.
The passion and purpose.
And if
And you
there's
know what? There's billions of dollars worth of money out there, but it's never
yeah,
about the money. It's never about,
no,
it's about the passion and purpose and about helping people. And I've heard so many
yes,
times, if you serve others, then you'll serve yourself. Like if you're serving other
absolutely.
people, it comes back to you tenfold. So, I mean, that's an odd concept, I suppose, but it's
Yeah,
about the passion. People, if they have
yes.
the passion, they can make it happen.
Yes, yes. See, the passion drives action, and you don't have to do big action. You can do little steps of action consistently, get you to where you want to go, don't they?
That's right. And even better than talking to me, for $7, they can get a copy of my special report in the masterclass. And basically, the special report, if they fill that in, they'll have
Mhm.
the three tenets: your mission, your budget, and your proposal. They can still talk to me if they like.
Yeah,
For $7, I've got people $10,000, at a minimum. That's a bargain.
yes. It is, absolutely. I think $7 is a bargain. And the other thing is that $7 will go up once you get through your initial stages of having the course up. So $7, if you're an American listening, $7 to you is, let me see if I can do the calculation in my head. It's about $4.50. Am I right?
It's $7 US,
So
so it's
not,
$7. So it's seven
oh, it
dollars.
is $7.
Yeah,
$7 US.
less. So that's probably 2 cups of coffee in the US. But for that, you get
Absolutely.
yourself going on your project, the ability to map it out. And then if they still want to speak to me, they can still speak to me. But the course
Yeah.
itself, 8 modules, will be $97. So that's $97 US. And that'll be aiming to get it launched. I'll have a link tonight.
Yes.
I'll do it myself
Yes.
to get this
Yes.
going so that people can get that report tonight. Because, this is going to help so many people get their projects off the ground.
Agreed. Yeah, 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 yeah. January is often a time when we're looking about what the next 12 months holds. Often people have had time off over Christmas and thought about how they want to live their lives going forward in 2021. And I dare say that there's a lot of people who've had thoughts over the Christmas break. Well, I'd really like to do this, or I'd really like to do that, or I'm passionate about this. I just don't know how to get that started. Then this uh, little report will help you, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you the form to fill in if you like. Now the other thing is that
Yes.
when you're filling in forms, that a lot of
Yeah.
grants these days you don't get a form, that you fill in. You go
Yes.
online, and the problem
Yes.
with that is that you don't get to see. Like you fill in the first page, it might say name, how long you've been in business, address,
Address.
yeah, and then the next page you don't know what it is. So if you get
Yeah.
my full form, you've got all that listed out so that when you come to put it
Yes.
online into the grant application, at least you've got that outline. You've got that
Yes.
practice, if you like. Whereas when you're submitting your grants these days, you don't get to see what comes next. And then
No, and you're like scrambling to go, oh, where's that document? What's this? There's, yes, I agree, Christine. Sometimes you'll start to fill out those forms and go, oh, oh, I haven't got that information, and I wish I'd known and I would have had it prepared.
that's
What
right.
you're saying is that you give them the template that will help them do that, because I'm guessing that most applications for grants of any description follow a pretty the same sort of questions and information that they'll need in order to assess whether your grant's going to be successful or not.
Yeah, so they follow an outline,
Yeah.
name, address, how long you've been in business, if it's a business grant, for example, because I want to know
Yeah.
that you've been around a while. They want to know that you're not just a
Yes.
fly-by-nighter, that you're not going to go, yeah,
Yes.
I'll have that money and off you go. So those
Yeah.
are the standard questions. Then after that, there'll be questions which are particular to that grant. But at least if you filled in my form, you've got an
Yes.
idea of what it looks like, but also an idea of who you are. An
Yes. Yes.
idea of
So you've actually like done the pre-work before you go and apply for the grant, which makes it easier on you and has you well prepared and more likely for someone to read your application. Because isn't it true that there, in a lot of those processes, some of the applications are just not even read because they're not filled out completely or in a certain way?
if there's one thing that I can tell people, the number one reason that grants are rejected is because they don't respond to the specifications. They don't
Yeah.
respond to what the grant giver is asking. So if there's one thing
Yeah.
that people can improve on, improve their chances, doesn't mean they're going to be successful necessarily, but if they can respond to exactly what the grant giver is asking, that's really important.
Yes.
That's a number one reason why people don't get a grant. The second thing is that at least if you've gone through my little form, my little pro forma, you've thought
Yes.
about what it is you're doing. I think that for me, in talking to all the, over 100 women that I have, they know they've got a
Yes.
project, but they haven't written it down. So they haven't got it into a form where they can tell someone else, where they
Yes.
can articulate it to somebody else. So
Yes.
it's really
Yeah.
important to have thought that through so that when you come to the form, that you've already got that in your mind, if you like.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
So
great advice.
respond to what the question's asking. The other thing is that when I was doing some research recently, statistics
Mm.
say that you're not more successful by getting somebody else, a grant writer, to write your grant.
Yes.
You're the same amount of success as if you get a grant writer as if you write it yourself. So that's why I want to educate
Ah.
people so that they can write their own grants. Because if you think about it, the passion comes from you. So if you
Yes. And
somebody else to write it, I'm happy to write grants, but if you've got that
mm,
passion that you can put into the application, then it comes
yeah.
through. And grant writers are usually, anywhere from $8,000 to start to write a grant. So if you're getting a
Yes.
$10,000 grant, there's your grant gone. So
It's gone.
that's why I want to educate people to write their own grants to be as successful as they can.
Mm. Christine, in speaking about grants, where are some of the best places to find where grants are available?
The best place to start is to write your mission, your budget, and your proposal. Because looking for grants online is it's like a barnyard, if you like. They're all over the place. So I
Yes.
say to people, don't start with a grant. Because if you start saying, oh, is there a grant out there for me? That's like you
Yeah.
just want the money.
Yeah.
So grant givers can smell that a mile off. So if you
Yeah.
start with your mission, your vision, and your budget, then you've got
Yeah.
more chance of finding the money because you've got this budget, your proposal. Then you look for where the grant is. So it might be that you go to your local MP. It might be then that you
Yes.
look at local government. It might be that you look at fundraising. The best
Yeah.
place to start is to write your proposal because the money
Mm.
doesn't necessarily come from a grant. It doesn't necessarily come
Yeah.
from a platform where you find grants. So,
Yeah.
and there are platforms. So the federal government has a website for grants, but they're usually billions of
Uh-huh.
dollars. They're usually
Yeah.
organisations that are, the Salvation Army, for example, the Red Cross.
Yes.
They're big buckets of money. And then there's
Yes.
state government, and then they're smaller, but they're still big buckets of money. And the next place and
Yes.
the best place probably for your listeners to look would be local government. So I'm not sure what the
Yes.
equivalent would be in America, the US, some of your listeners over there? Maybe it's
Counties,
county.
probably. Counties, I think. So they would have state and federal, but then I think it's counties versus what we call local government, I think.
So they're local governors or something like that. What they're called
Yeah,
over there.
I think, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
those people would be the people to go to see, because they have the finger on the pulse. But the best, you need to start with a proposal and then look, because it might be a grant, might be fundraising, might be sponsorship.
Yes,
But I go through those
yes.
things in the course as well.
Christine, I'm just thinking that if you learnt and connecting it back to transferable skills, so if you learnt how to do this for grants, then those skills that you learn to do for grants are then transferable to things like bank loans and applications for funding from all sorts of different other sources as well, are they not?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So the same things that you'll write for a grant are the same things that you'll write
Yes.
for a proposal, are the same things that you'll write for a marketing plan as well.
I was just going to say, and then that flows through to a business plan as well. So if you get Christine to teach you those key elements,
Mm.
they then flow on and to many other things in life and business. So they're really quite valuable skills for $7 and then $97. Like seriously, this is something that could really help you do the things that you want to achieve in 2021. Christine, I know that you've talked about that mission of helping 1,000 women in the next 5 years. Is there a bigger vision that sits behind that mission?
A bigger vision. I want to get carers. I want carers to understand that it's possible. Things are possible. That's my
Yes,
vision, to have carers. But my big mission or vision, if you like, is to
yes,
have that cottage where women come together and
yes,
help each other. That's my big vision, where we can
yes,
come together and be helping each other. That's my big vision.
yes, yes. There's not enough helping, or there's not enough understanding of helping. I had a guest on the show last week, and we had a little conversation about giving, and he tasked the listeners with going out and doing and giving to five people. So whatever that looked like for you, whatever giving means to you, do it 5 times in the next week. And it's the same for helping, isn't it? You are, by helping others, you help yourself. So the more that you help others, the
Yeah.
more that you get the help that you desire. And that might just be the difference in getting you to the next level and where you want to go quicker than what you thought it was going to take.
Yeah, I actually heard somebody say that it was flat broke, wasn't making any sales, and somebody said
Yeah.
something like that to him. So I went out and gave 10 people $10. And I've actually done that. I've actually
Yes.
been to the city and I gave 10 homeless people on the street $10. And the thing is that it makes you feel better, and then it rolls on, and then people want to help you
It's an
back.
energy. It's an energy thing, and once you've done it a few times, it becomes something that pops into your mind often. So for me, I just like to randomly pay for the coffee for the person in the line behind me. Like it just, I know that that's not a huge thing. Um, I was listening to 60 Minutes last night, and Keith Urban was talking about giving Pink a piano after they'd worked together, just as a gift of appreciation. Now, you don't have to give pianos. Again, it can just be a cup of coffee. It can just be offering to mow the neighbour's yard. So that's another one. If I'm mowing my front yard, I will then go and mow the neighbour's front yard. It doesn't take me much longer, but it it's about the energy of being helpful and giving. And once you start doing it, you'll discover that there is something beautiful that happens, doesn't there, Christine? It just flows back to you in bucket loads. That's not why you do it. You do it because of that goosebump feeling you get when someone behind you realizes that you've quietly paid for their meal or paid for their coffee, and there's a joy that they get because you gave. And it's about their joy. It's about seeing their joy.
Yeah.
It's a palpable feeling of their joy that someone just cared enough to just give you a cup of coffee. And it's as simple as it needs to be, isn't it, Christine?
Yeah. It takes the same amount of energy to be nasty as it does to be nice. So you might as well be nice because you get your rip of the awards. But I'm going to take that challenge up for next week.
Yes.
Like I'm going to go out and
Yeah.
give to people, and I'm going to come back and let's talk about that next week.
Absolutely. Actually, that would be really good. I'd love to know from the listeners too if they've accepted our challenge of going out and helping or giving 5 times in the next week. Because I'd really like to have a giving, helping ethos in 2021, because there's
Yeah.
so many people hurting out there, and you don't know that person behind you in that coffee line. They might just have had the most crappy day, and they're just going in to get a drink to get them through the next. You don't know what people are bearing. You don't know what people are dealing with. And that one little act of kindness might be enough to give them renewed hope, renewed strength, and a renewed belief in humanity. And we all need to do that. After last year, it's one of the key things I want to take forward into 2021 is to keep giving and helping um, randomly. And whenever I think of it, I try and do something in that next little time frame because life's busy. We go and get on with our life and you'll forget about it. So just try and do it when it pops into your mind. The more often you do it, the more often it will pop into your mind. And it's fun to discover new ways to give to people in a way that empowers them.
Mm.
So again, I'd really be keen to hear the innovative ideas that come from the listeners next week. So I'm actually, we're actually just about out of time. So quickly, before we have to go, Christine, I want you to tell our listeners your email address, followed by your website, and when you hope that the program is going to go live.
So my email address is christine@christinestow.com.au, and the website is christinestow.com.au. And right after this call, I'm going to formulate a link where they can get the $7 special report and the masterclass tonight. So I'll get that over to you tonight because I'm going to make that link up. And after that, there'll be the link. I could probably also do the link for the $97. It's this close to being automated
Yes.
through funnels, but
Yes.
I'm going to put a
Yep.
link
Yep.
tonight so that your listeners can get that.
So that's what I'm going to do for anyone who's listening today. That link will go up onto the radiotony.com website under co-hosts and look for Christine's information. And we'll put the link up there so that if you've missed this show or weren't quick enough to write it down, then we'll have the link there as well. Alternatively, just email christine@christinestow.com.au. Christine, it's just an absolute delight to do a co-hosted show with you, an absolute pleasure to talk to you and share you with the Radio Tony listeners. We will be back next week with Christine, and just a reminder, we'll be checking your random acts of kindness and your gifts in the preceding week. So that's your challenge. Go out, give, help, and let us know what that means to you and what you've done. That's it for this week. Christine and I will be back next week. Thank you so much, Christine. Over to you, TJ, and bye for now, everyone.